Depression is the reason why I do what I do. Depression is the reason why I talk about anxiety loudly. Depression is the reason why I talk about my experience with OCD, my experience with generalized anxiety disorder, my experience with health anxiety, social anxiety, all those levels that I had when I was struggling with anxiety. Depression is the reason why I came out. I play low-key, but the way depression affected my life in totality when I was struggling with anxiety, I lost, in school, I was in uni at that time, and I didn't perform well in uni. I lost relationships, I lost friendships, I literally lost myself. And that is the reason why I talk about it loudly, because I say to myself, like, after when I discovered about the principles of anxiety recovery, when I discovered that you can actually recover from anxiety, you can actually recover from OCD and all those offsets of anxiety, I said I'm gonna do what I can. I'm gonna do my best to recover from anxiety, but above all, I'm gonna talk about this thing. So if you ever ask yourself, like, why do I talk about this, why am I so loud about this, it is because of how depression made me lose myself when I was struggling with anxiety. So if you're struggling with depression, if you're struggling with depression and you want to learn how to how to go through depression, how to be able to come out on the other side, how to be able to overcome depression, then you are in the right place. Let's get into it. So a question I get a lot from my clients, a question I get a lot from my TikTok comments is that, can anxiety lead to depression? The answer is yes. Anxiety can lead to depression, because when I went to the hospital, I was diagnosed with all the anxiety, social anxiety, health anxiety, OCD. Depression was one of my diagnoses. But not everyone who struggles with anxiety has depression. You can struggle with anxiety and don't have depression. But me, I was one of those people that, can I say unlucky? I don't believe in luck, but okay, I had depression. I struggled with depression when I was in the anxiety cycle. So it is not a must that someone who is struggling with anxiety must have depression. You can just struggle with anxiety like that without depression. So if you are someone who has the fear of getting depression, because most anxiety sufferers, even though some anxiety sufferers struggle with depression and some also just have the fear of depression, they don't necessarily have the depression, but they have the fear, okay, what if this leads to depression? What will I do? How will I be able to overcome depression? So if that is you, then listen to this video to the end. So I went to the hospital and depression was one of my diagnoses. And before being diagnosed, I had this, I was like, okay, I'm feeling these symptoms of depression, but still I was not sure that it was depression. I was like this intense sadness, this intense, like I used to see people laughing. Then I asked myself, like, okay, what are they laughing? Let me try. I couldn't even, like, how are they doing it? I couldn't shower. I couldn't brush my teeth. This level of fatigue and sadness, no motivation, no hope in life. I couldn't do anything. My mom used to come to, my mom is one of the leaders in church. She used to come to my room, she looks at me, she prays, she goes. My dad comes, looks at me, and he goes. My siblings were looking at me like they're seeing their daughter disappear, but they don't know to where. That is, my depression went to the real extreme. And as I've said earlier, it is the reason why I do this. It is the reason why I talk about anxiety loudly. I always describe depression as someone taking a wet blanket and placing it on you. It is this heavy sadness, it is this heavy fatigue that you are in this, like, and there is a place where if depression reaches, that's when you can start having suicidal thoughts, because you look at, depression does not only affect you, but it affects even your career, even the people around you, even your family. And that is the point where you can, like, it can lead to suicidal thoughts, because you ask yourself, like, if I'm such a bother to these people, and if I'm giving these people stress like this, then what is the reason to be here? And that is a very dangerous place to be. But I always say, if you understand anxiety, if you understand what is happening, then you will know that suicidal thoughts are just, like, they're just thoughts brought by anxiety. They don't mean that you really want to kill yourself, but this state of being emotionally exhausted, because that's what leads to depression. Depression is caused by you being emotionally exhausted. Anxiety causes emotional exhaustion. You are in this place, your body is overwhelmed with stress, with these physical symptoms, and you don't understand, you don't know how to get yourself out of this cocoon. So it can make you so much emotionally exhausted. Most anxiety sufferers tend to worry about the depression. You have this depression, you have this feeling of sadness, but you tend to worry about it. This is because you don't understand what is happening, and worrying about your depression leads to more depression. Are you getting my point? Also, anxiety makes someone feel hopeless. You are in this state, you are hopeless, you don't have something to look forward to, and that is the point you can ask yourself, like, Okay, like you don't understand, like you are the feeling of, no hope in life. It comes with so much, this sadness that leads to depression. So the reasons why you feel depression is because you are emotionally exhausted. Anxiety is draining and can make you depressed. Another one is worrying about the depression, worrying about why you're feeling sad, worrying about, the feeling of hopelessness leads to more depression. The feeling of hopelessness, feeling hopeless, having nothing to look forward to leads to depression. So that if you are always asking yourself, why am I feeling depressed? Why am I this intense? It's because of those three reasons. When your mind is overwhelmed with stress, when you have reached this breaking point, it leads to depression. You are gonna struggle with depression. Okay, that's part one. That I've only addressed people who are, struggling with depression. Then there is this category of people, they don't really have the depression, but they are struggling with what if thoughts. What if I have, because depression is a fear on its own. What if, it leads to depression? What if, like I don't understand this sadness? What if? Those what if thoughts, they are part of intrusive thoughts. They don't necessarily mean that you have depression. What if I have depression doesn't necessarily mean that you have depression. It's just an intrusive thought. An intrusive thought like, what if I don't recover? What if I go crazy from anxiety? What if? It's just another what if thought. And depression is not something that you just come out of the blue that now you have depression. You will be diagnosed. You will know. Those who always ask, like, can you know when you have depression? Yeah, you're gonna know when you have depression. And also, the best thing is being diagnosed by a professional, because when you have anxiety, those feelings of sadness, because you're gonna explain to a professional, like to your doctor, to your psychiatrist, to your psychologist, like, this is how I feel, and they're gonna say, okay, these are symptoms of depression. But also, there's just that sadness. Anxiety brings sadness. So if you have this sadness, does not necessarily mean that you have depression. So the best thing is to get diagnosed by a professional. Like me, I was diagnosed by a professional, and I knew, like, I'm struggling with depression. So if you're struggling with anxiety, and in this video I'm only addressing those who, their depression was brought by anxiety. If you ask me about, I'm having depression, but you are never struggling with anxiety, that one I don't know. Maybe the recovery is the same, but in this video I'm focusing on those who struggle with depression brought by anxiety. If you're struggling with depression brought by anxiety, then do not despair. Do not think that you're weird. It is common for people struggling with anxiety to struggle with depression because of the constant hopelessness, the emotional exhaustion, the worry about depression. It can, and also the fact that I was in this state, I had tried everything. I had tried everything to try and recover from anxiety. I had tried, breathing techniques. I had tried acupuncture. I had tried yoga. I had tried medicine. I had tried something. I had tried everything, but I was still not recovered. I was still in this state. So I think that is also one of the reasons that leads to depression, because you are in this cocoon. You don't know if you'll ever get out. You don't understand what is happening. That also leads to depression. So if you're out there struggling with depression from anxiety, I want you to know that it is common and you can recover from that type of depression. I was able to get out, and that's why, as we started this video, I told you, like, the reason why I talk about the reason why I talk about depression, the reason why I talk about anxiety, the reason why I talk about OCD, like all those, offsets of anxiety, is because of how, depression affected my life in totality. I lost everything. I didn't know myself. I lost friendships. I literally lost everything. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna recover from this thing, because I desperately searched for, a way out of it, and I got it. I'm gonna recover from this thing, and above all, I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna talk about it because it was my depression went to the real extreme. It affected my life. So I want to share with you guys how I was able to get out of that depression. First of all, accept that I'm struggling with depression, because that is it. You are struggling with depression. So what can you do to be able to get yourself out of that, out of the depression? Most people who are struggling with depression, they just want to, not that you just want to, but anxiety wants you to sit in bed. Anxiety wants you to scroll on social media. You can't do, like, I couldn't do the basics. I couldn't shower, I couldn't brush, I couldn't do the basics. So because depression wants you to just stay, like, wants you to just be, I want you to do the opposite. I know it's heavy, I know it's, this heavy sadness, this heavy fatigue, but for you to be able to recover from depression, you have to do the opposite of what your anxiety wants you to do. You have to do the opposite of what depression wants you to do. If it wants you to sit in bed, get up. If it wants you to, I don't know, you're not going to work now every morning, you are calling your manager, making excuses because you can't go to work because of how anxiety is making you feel, how depression is making you feel, do the opposite. Drag yourself around. You're not going to feel like doing it. Depression was, like I've told you, it took me to the real extreme. So, but I was able to drag myself around. Even if I didn't feel like doing things, I used to do them. Even if I didn't feel like showering, I used to. I used to go and shower. Even if I didn't feel like brushing my teeth, I didn't feel like doing the house chores, I didn't feel like going to classes, because my depression manifested for a while when I was in uni. So even if I didn't feel like going to classes, I used to do them. As you do these things, first of all, you're going to start gaining interest in these things, and also your depression is going to lift. Your depression is going to lift. And what I always tell my clients is that focus on overcoming anxiety. Focus on regulating your nervous system. Focus on healing. And as a result, the consequence of that is that the depression will lift. The consequence of that is that, the symptoms will go away. The consequence of that is that the intrusive thoughts, the symptoms that you don't want, the sensations that you don't want, they're going to lift. So first of all, you have to focus on living your life. You have to focus on the exposures. Like literally, you have to focus on healing anxiety, and as a result, the depression is going to lift. So don't just sit in your house, you're not doing anything, you have to live your life. One of the keys of overcoming anxiety is living your life. And I know you're gonna ask, but I don't feel like it. No one ever feels like it. I didn't feel like it, but because I just wanted to recover. I had struggled with anxiety for 6 years. I was already tired, and I said, if this is what is gonna hurt me, if this is what is gonna kill me, let it be. Because the kind of life that I was living, I was only existing. I was not living anymore. So I said, if this is what is gonna hurt me, if this is what is gonna, then so be it. So when I started living my life, when I started focusing on overcoming anxiety, then as a consequence, my depression lifted. I just remember there was a day I was doing the house chores. Then I remembered I've not felt the anxiety symptoms in a while. I now I felt lighter. I could do my things. Like you're becoming the new version of yourself. Of course, the old version of you is underneath all the symptoms. But also, I always say that when you recover from anxiety, you get a better version of yourself. You're gonna get the old you is still there, but also a better version of yourself. There are things that you're gonna learn from anxiety, like emotional intelligence. You're gonna see things that used to arc you. You can just like let them pass. My mom always tells me like I'm not the Albright Chidiu pre-anxiety, because I'm more calm. I'm emotionally intelligent. I know when this is how I'm supposed to respond to this. Your memory becomes clearer. You're like just a better version of yourself. So for you to be able to overcome depression, the way I overcome depression is accepting that I had depression and allowing myself to feel the depression. I felt low. I had deep sadness, the fatigue, the heaviness, but I didn't try to make those, how I felt go away. I felt that way, and someone who is struggling with anxiety, that's exactly how you're supposed to feel. So the way you're feeling is a symptom of nervous sensitization. You have not, like, you are having symptoms of nervous sensitization, so don't try to make them go away. The way you feel, process it, allow yourself to feel that way, but still live your life regardless. Do your thing with you feeling the sadness. Drag yourself around. Do not self-pity yourself that now I'm struggling with depression. Why me? No, the world doesn't operate like that. You are the one who has to align. If there is no change that will happen if you yourself you don't change, like, the world will continue. Even if you are in this depression, you are in this anxiety, the world is still, like, literally this world is still moving. So the change is on you. You have to align. Like, okay, don't pity yourself. Like, that is it. It is what it is. So what can you do to remove yourself from this situation? What can you do to be better? You're the one who has to make the change. No one will do it for you. So no self-pity. Accept and allow that is how you feel. Live your life regardless of you feeling that way. Don't try to make the symptoms go away, because that is also another thing. Trying to make depression go away is you giving it attention, and with anxiety, what you focus on grows. So if you're giving the depression attention that you want to make it go away, it's gonna stick, it's gonna grip on you more. The way to overcome depression is to drag yourself around and allow the way you feel. Regardless of how you feel, don't try to make it go away, don't try to suppress it, allow it to be there. That is how I was able to overcome depression. And if you're someone who is struggling, what if it's depression? That's just another intrusive thought. Throw it under the anxiety umbrella, acknowledge it, allow it to be there, and move on with your life. Live your life regardless. You don't have depression, you're simply having intrusive thoughts that, what if I have depression? But if you have been diagnosed with depression, I've told you that it is common to struggle with depression when you are having anxiety, and the way to overcome that type of depression is to go through life regardless. Drag yourself around. So thank you for watching up to this point. If you have watched up to this point, subscribe, comment, like, and share. If you have an idea or any symptom that you'd like me to talk about, kindly comment down below. Otherwise, let's see each other on the next video.